Good evening, all. Welcome to the work session for the Village Board of Trustees, the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, July 12th. Shane reports that we are live on TV and live on Zoom, are we? Not on Zoom. We're live on TV, broadcasting as well as taped.
Yeah, PCTV76.org we're live on.
PCTV76.org. And as I'll repeat, when we get to our regular meeting at 8 o'clock, you can always log in to PCTV76.org in a few days and pick up an on-demand webcast of this or any other meeting. So we had a few work session items, and this would have been a fuller discussion if we had Eric tonight. He's not able to be here. But the first item was discussion of Village Hall capital and maintenance. Quick update. We're in the midst of excavating right now this long unused oil tank that is in the world's least accessible location back around the corner behind Village Hall. So that is being excavated, and the new air conditioning units are on order. So the reason we're clear the street for the benefit of anyone watching is that the second floor of Village Hall has no air conditioning at the moment, pending this series of calamities that we're rectifying with two new air conditioning units. So you may recall that a ways back we hired Burley Gallagher, Pleasantville-based consulting engineers, to take a look at the building conditions for Village Hall as a whole. And did Eric send this to everybody? I'm not sure he did.
I don't think
Yeah.
so. Or maybe
Well,
there's...
I'm not sure he did. It doesn't matter because we're going to have to go through this in greater detail when we have him as well. But let me just run through this laundry list of things that might need to be done, that certainly will need to be done at some point. Long range, mid range, and in the near term. So in the near term, we're in the midst of this excavation of the oil tank we didn't know was there, that hasn't been used for many years, but had to be removed in order to establish the new air conditioning unit. So Burley Gallagher came back and said that they have a long list of things, and they established them as priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. So in the category of mechanicals, priorities 3 is replace the existing 4 boilers. And if we did replace the 4 boilers, we could replace them with 2 new high-efficiency hot water condensing boilers. So that's been assigned a priority of 3. And that would be about $250,000. The current boiler room should ideally have a second means of egress. It's a very awkward, partly subterranean place, and that's imagined to be potentially another $100,000. They identify as priority 3 replacing the 4 meeting room fan coil units with new ones. That's about $50,000. Priority 1, meaning needs to be done soon, is to replace the HVAC unit and the outdoor condensing unit that serves the detectives' offices and the holding cells. That is $40,000. Replace the HVAC unit that serves the second floor vestibule. Priority 3, that's $35,000. Remove the indoor unit serving the third floor server room and provide a new ductless system. That's priority 1. That's how we keep the computers cool. $25,000. Replace 2 exhaust fans in the police locker rooms. $5,000. Expanded the control system to include all equipment. Again, priority 3, but that's $150,000. And then lastly, establish an annual maintenance contract to manage all of this stuff, established at $75,000. So if you add up that long list, that's $730,000. That's the mechanical list.
Yeah.
The plumbing list adds up to $285,000. Again, priorities 1, 2, 3, and 4. You will recall that we've been through quite a to-do in the last 6 months with clogs that were happening in the sewer pipe. That has been resolved at some substantial expense by digging the thing up and getting rid of some extra bends in the pipe. But a quick summary of this $285,000 worth of stuff is a new backflow preventer on the cold water service, $50,000. Remove and replace cold water piping, $50,000. Remove and provide a new hot water recirculation piping to meet the energy code. That's $25,000. Provide metered faucets on the first, second, and third floor bathrooms. That's $10,000. Those would be faucets that turn off automatically. Replace the basement lavatories with new, $20,000. Replace the toilet sink combination fixtures in the cells with new ones. That's $15,000. Backflow preventer for the cold water at the boiler, $7,500. And excavate where the sanitary leaves the building and connects to the main, and revise the sanitary connection to prevent backups. That's $100,000. A piece of which is done, right? I got that right. You lived this, Noreen, right? Is all of it done, or is there more to that?
No, there's always more to be done.
Yeah.
It did solve the problem of the backups.
Right.
In the police station.
Do all of these items suppose that there's some problem that needs to be remedied, like replacing the toilets, for instance, and things like that?
These
Is
are
that
not,
just-
these- yes,
Noreen
these are-
maybe will help you come to the mic, so.
all the items that Peter mentioned
Yeah.
are definitely needs, not just wants.
Okay.
They've all been identified, and unfortunately been identified because of the issues
Okay.
that have come to light.
But part of the wackiness of all of this is that when the railroad cut was created, Bedford Road was raised. And so all of the plumbing that comes out of the building is now that much deeper in the ground because the road was raised. I mean, if you look at old pictures along the side of what's now Village Hall on Bedford Road, almost the whole level of the police station, the lower level locker rooms, was at grade with windows. So it's a crazy thing. So yeah. So at any rate, then you have the opportunity to get to the sewer pipe, and you're digging to the center of the earth. So at any rate, that's $285,000. So let's just add that to the previous $730, and we are essentially at $1 million. Page 3 is only $300,000.
Okay.
Electrical.
Cheap.
Interior emergency lighting, $30,000. Exterior emergency lighting, $10,000. Again, these have different priorities. Replace lighting in the boiler room lobby, that's only $700. A thermal and Megger testing, $11,000. I don't even know what that is. Do you?
Can you spell
Thermal and Megger, MEGGAR testing,
it? No. How much?
$11,000. To be determined what that is. It's a priority too in the eyes of really Gallagher. Panel and feeder replacement, that's about $20,000. Smoke detectors, fire alarm strobes, receptacles, add receptacles in offices, new panel for receptacle and feeds, occupancy sensors that would turn lights on and off, and replace light fixtures that have outlived their useful life. That's a $100,000 item.
That one, a lot Jeff already did, but there are some areas of the building, like that back staircase area.
Right.
Nothing was ever touched.
So part of this is when the village bought the building back in John Nona's era. It was not fully renovated. It was kind of moved into with some updates, and it's an old building. And so the bottom line here is near term, midterm, long term. We're looking at give or take $1,300,000. And then not included in that is the expectation that the elevator will have to be replaced. And that's about $200,000 as well. So $1.5 million. Right? And as you've seen, we've been throwing quite a bit of money at the air conditioning at the moment. And there are still some issues about exactly where all this mechanical equipment is located. I can talk to you about that later. So, at any rate, obviously we got to put all of this into context with the other things we are expecting to do and considering doing. Obviously, the pool, big ticket item. We will know sometime later this year what our share would be added to the state grant if we proceed with the Manville Road project, and then the civic space potentially behind that. So obviously our willingness to bond is going to depend on a whole bunch of factors, including what happens to the economy and what happens to bond rates. But it is an amount of money that obviously needs to be planned and scheduled, and I think these village hall expenses are going to happen over a period of years.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of the items that do pop up on the list is only because if you're going to do an improvement, let's say on a boiler, why would you do the boiler if you didn't do the pipe leading to it? So it's,
Right.
you know, once again, I'm not quite sure how they all prioritize once you put them all in one big group. And as we pick projects, what that means for each piece.
Yeah, I mean the boiler project, replacing 4 boilers with 2 new high efficiency ones, $250,000. The boilers are hard to get to. It's it's down the stairs. I mean, there's a crazy circumstance down there, including a gas-fired generator that was installed when the village bought the building to run the police department and some other specific parts of the building in the case of a power outage. But that thing, I don't know how they ever got it in there.
No, but it pays that if you're going in to take that out, take out that false floor. You know, when you first enter,
Yes,
that's what that rework of that area would be at that time.
right.
You might as well, once again, take the opportunity to rip it out
Yeah,
because you're
so,
down there.
right. I mean, it's a circumstance where the basement needs to be rebuilt. It's difficult to access, difficult to maintain, and the work won't be easy either because the only way to it is that narrow walkway behind the building, between the building and the tracks. So the painful aspect of that is we could spend $1.5 million and the average constituent would notice nothing. Kind of an unrewarding but necessary thing. So
We
Yes.
can't just meet in a Holiday Inn.
The pool is more compelling.
we would
Sure.
have to have a Holiday Inn. Have you ever heard something? So obviously Eric can dig into this with greater detail, and Jeff, no doubt, and Robert Hughes will have some commentary as well. But if we sort out the items Barilli Gallagher had identified as priority 1, maybe that's the way to start thinking about it. You agree with it?
Go through those.
And do you have a sense on the elevator? I mean, Coney keeps saying it's coming, right?
They do keep saying that. I have
Coney is
talked
the
to
elevator,
the gentleman
service
that
guy.
comes every month. So same thing. He said at some point. They all say that. It will,
Exactly.
the problem is there's a slight bend in the shaft. So if you've ever ridden the elevator and you hear that little boom every time, that's something that once again, when it's
Don't tell me
replaced,
that.
needs to be.
Well, it's a shaft that goes down. Again, it was drilled down into
Straight.
the earth because there's no hoist room at the top. So
So you're saying it can fall far enough to kill all of us?
no.
No, but it's.
I mean, the good thing about hydraulic elevators is they and as you no doubt have all experienced, if the elevator's out, which it will be for a period of time, first off, we don't have ADA access to the second and third floors, and the fire stairs don't work logically to access. So, for example, if the back stair is secure for a variety of reasons, the stair does not allow you to go down, say, from the third floor to the first floor to go see the building department without going outside and coming back in again.
Right.
I haven't noticed that.
And as with any aging mechanics, parts become an issue. So We wouldn't know with the next repair, but so far it's been fine. I mean,
How much is the building worth? The property in the building?
To sell the building?
Yeah, as is.
Well, we kicked the tires of that years ago. I don't know what the answer to that is. Clearly, quite a bit. Well, I say clearly. It would be a difficult building, potentially difficult to retrofit, but when the village bought it, it had been an ad agency for a long period of time.
Well, I'm just saying, like, there are other properties about town that are a little bit less centrally located that might allow us to do other things in addition to hold meetings. And if we're going to invest this much, should we be considering other options?
Well, I mean, first off, years ago, and this dates back quite a ways, there was we were exploring what was admittedly a long shot, but the idea of selling the old rec center that is at the corner of Great Oak and Bedford to the Methodist Church, and then buying the entire Methodist Church property for Village Hall and selling Village Hall.
Mhm.
So there were a few pieces attached to that initial notion, which had some potential, would have given the Methodist Church a new home, and the monies generated by the sale of their bigger property to fix it up and use it as a church. It would have given us a building up at Maple Hill that offered a lot of potential for most of our uses, but not for the police. And so that gave rise to a conversation about the question of whether the police would stay where they are, whether you could sell the building with a long-term lease for the police station, whether the police station could be a condo within the building. That all started to be unlikely to be able to work it out. But I can tell you from that conversation, most neighborhoods don't want the police station with its 24/7 activity close to a residential zone. So that's one of the issues. Further, I'm not aware at the moment of a site that would work, that even if there were some that potentially would work, they all come with a similar laundry list of things that have been done.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm just saying, like, if you have to put $1.5 million or $2 million in this building, it would be better to put it into another building, since our location on Wheeler Avenue now has probably more commercial value than it did 15 years ago.
Yeah, it might.
Just because of the development of retail.
But there's something to be said for having the government in the center of town. Too.
There
is
is.
nothing that's very far from the center of town.
Yeah.
Well, even like the Methodist Church property, that would have been very different, I think, relationship.
It would have been, no doubt. And the other aspect of the existing Village Hall is, for some of the reasons we've just described, it's a bit of an awkward building to convert. First off, you don't have direct ADA access. You have to completely rebuild, reconceive the entrance up front in order to make it accessible. We achieve ADA access with a lift over on the police department side.
Is it a protected historic building?
No, I mean, I think it certainly, it's a building none of us would want to see torn down, but I mean, certainly, I don't think there's much left. There's not very much left of historic interest inside, a little bit, but I mean, obviously we should be open to anything that might happen and come down the pike. I will say, and again, this dates back 10 years or more, the idea of moving isn't an inexpensive venture either. And the idea of moving the police involves moving. There's an antenna on their roof, and there's a whole lot of moving to do. So, at any rate, absent somebody thinking, hey, here's a building that might actually be available, that might actually work, I don't see much of a way forward other than just start chipping away at this list. Any thoughts on your part?
No, I agree with that. It seems like we should comb through the list carefully and, yeah, start with the number one items. It's hard to have much of a response to a lot of it, just hearing it like that. But
Yeah.
it sounds like some.
It's always best just to hear things.
Well, no, I mean, just
And then look at it later.
being an expert as I am. And,
Noreen, do you happen to know whether this indoor, the unit serving the server room that's a number one priority? Is that thing been malfunctioning?
It's part of the Dakin system right now. So the recommendation is to have a separate split system for that, so that it's,
All by itself and can't go down.
right. And then maybe even small enough where if the generator pops on, that's one of the units that the generator serves. The
And-
whole building, but just to keep.
And the generator is believed to be sufficient, right?
Yeah, right.
But now it must be getting to be 20 years old. When was the move?
Late 90, right? 2000? Was it 90? Trying to
Something
remember.
like that,
98.
Was it 98?
which is 20 some odd
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
So that's part of the
Yeah.
challenge is a lot of the mechanics are all the same age.
Right.
So they're all aging out at
Yeah,
the same
so,
time.
I mean, right, and honestly, some of it isn't so much about, oh my God, the building's a problem, it's just stuff gets old.
Mhm.
And nowadays, the energy codes have changed and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, stuff we would like to be able to achieve philosophically as well as economically. So, all right, well, more on that, but we need to look at that obviously in the context of the overall capital plan.
Yeah.
Because we definitely cannot bite off all of this stuff all by itself. So I'll send you this evaluation report, which is 18 pages of thrilling reading.
Sounds good.
So at the moment, it's only the second floor that's out? You have window units going on the third floor?
Yes.
The third floor is run by the same Dakin system. And eventually the
One of
window
the
units
pairs.
can go away.
Yep.
So you guys are okay.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alyssa's office is a very high ceiling, so her office does not. But I'd like to say I stacked the food compost kits and created a wall, and it's now deflected in, so she feels the cold air. So it's not only a marketing scheme now that Village Hall is open, but purposeful use of the food compost
And do you
kits.
rearrange
Very
them
clever.
daily to change for interest?
It works.
It worked.
While you mentioned that, are those selling at all at this point, or the folks who are going to buy them have done so?
We still have about 140 left, so we're definitely.
So we should make a push about it.
We should probably make a push. The fall is probably a good time to do that. I really think we need to add a day. Speaking as somebody who struggles to do the food scrap drop off on Saturdays.
Yeah, I mean,
I
the
think
trouble.
we need to revisit that at some point.
Yeah, Jeff's concern, which is understandable, is he feels he cannot have people driving through in that loop while the yard is active.
Well, maybe we could relocate it, or.
I mean, I think that's probably what would have to happen. We have to figure
Yeah,
out
I
something.
just think that there's a built-in limit to how effective that program could be if it's only
No
accessible.
doubt. I mean, in a
regularly.
dream world, it would like to be accessible all the time. It's an interesting question whether certainly the guidance from other communities has been that it has to be monitored.
No,
I do wonder whether, well, Scarsdale said that.
that's not what they said when I did
Oh, really?
yeah,
I didn't go there.
I did.
I saw a presentation.
Yeah.
What did they say when they went there?
They said they monitored it initially, but then in time they felt that they didn't have to.
And so they
Anymore.
don't.
No, I don't know if it's 24/7, but it's definitely 7 days a week. I think it's whenever the recycling center is open.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, we have trouble with illicit dumping. But
I mean-
food scraps probably don't bring out the worst in people.
yeah, I would think not. I mean, you'd have to really go out of your way to, and it's not like
I mean, the problem we
doesn't
have is
invite that
people
kind of.
wanting to get rid of stuff that we don't accept, including hazardous materials and the like,
Right.
and commercial construction debris, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, so the Scarsdale people really emphasize that the food scrap program itself requires a very small amount of space. I think it does help to have a faucet, that allows people
And
to.
what do they do in the winter when that freezes up?
It doesn't operate in the winter. I mean,
There's
they
no
don't.
faucet.
There's no faucet in the winter.
Just like
yeah.
I guess we have no
Well,
faucet.
because obviously in the summer it gets, a little messier.
Yes,
But
I will say I like it a lot better in the winter.
I really struggle with the Saturdays, and I've got to believe I'm not the only person out there. I mean, it all depends on what, organizes the structure
Yeah.
of your weekend.
Also,
Anyway,
another of the issues is switching the bags when they get full and moving out the new gizmo and all of that. So,
That's true, but you
Something
can
can be
have
done.
several that are available so
Yeah.
that, once one is full, the instruction is, push that back or close it and then
Well,
move on to the next one.
right, we've at various points looked at ways. It's just like playing fields. If you owned the property and nothing had been developed there, you probably wouldn't put the things where they are now, like
Right.
the buildings in the field and all. But maybe there's some potential to figure that out. So
Yeah, I think maybe the fall would be a good time. I mean, the summer is always tricky anyway, but to revisit that and then also to do another push to advertise the food scraps.
okay,
Um,
and get these by the if we can sell them out by the fall, by then you won't need the air conditioning vent and deflecting.
we can connect with the school district through the gardens, perhaps, because there's a lot of education on composting that happens in the schools. So maybe we could.
Perhaps we could run an ad in the Examiner offering a discount, a short-term discount. David, how do we motivate people to buy these kids?
Actually, in all seriousness, we should do some social advertising. Do you want to intern for the?
For the
fall?
food scrap?
Yeah.
Sure.
I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to know. Do we get data
Yeah.
on how much the quarters are picking up?
They know because of the number of bins, and they do have to track it because it's now part of the requirement with the county.
Right.
So they'll be doing an annual report. I believe it's in
And so we'll be
February.
able to find out if the program is growing in terms of the total tonnage.
Right.
Oh,
I mean, I generally see people dropping off food scraps when I can make it on a Saturday. But
what are we
But,
doing? It's sport. That's what it is.
I know, no, it's just kids. I don't know.
I have the advantage of having adult children.
I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of things going on the Saturday.
It's the highlight of my Saturday.
Yeah.
Getting food scraps out of the house.
You can keep them in the freezer. That's one
Oh,
strategy
God.
in the summertime.
Oh,
So
God.
then they don't get as smelly. I'm just saying.
All right. So, also on our list here is just been working outside, right out there, with a project to put a generator that would run this building, with significant funding assistance from a community development block grant. So it's something we've talked about for a very long period of time. Oh, look at that. Go, Alyssa. It's something we've talked about for a long time because both the activities on this floor and the residents upstairs would be put in an extremely bad spot if this building were out of power for an extended period. It's one of those things we didn't think as much about until some years back when some of us, myself included, were out for like 2 weeks. So let's see if my pointer will blast through this.
Oh, cool.
Yes, it does.
Nice.
Yeah. So here's the front door. This is the pocket park over here. And the generator is going to go here. And essentially, Con Ed says we need a formal easement from these two property owners. So the village owns this piece, which is the park. And incidentally, just for history, the village owned this piece, which was a small parking lot. And this is now, again, 20-ish years ago, the village contributed that piece of property to this assemblage to make it possible to build the building. At the time, there was a house here in private ownership, and when that property came on the market, we bought it, and the house was in not great condition, and that gave us the chance to create this green space. So at any rate, the generator is going to go here for a bunch of logistical reasons and have some buffering around it. But Con Edison says that they need an easement or a letter accepting the transit of the wiring across our property and across the property that's owned by the Senior Center project, which is currently owned by the Pleasantville Housing Development Fund Company. I'm on the board of that as well, and Brian Scarstad is the president at the moment. So that is the entity that got created many, many years ago to work on affordable housing in Pleasantville, and those guys all those many years ago went through endless trouble to make it possible to build this building. So again, not everybody knows this history. The entire building is owned by the HDFC, and the village is a tenant here on the first floor and pay rent, which you will see, which you see on a monthly basis in their rent roll. Upstairs, there are 24 apartments at varying levels of affordability, all affordable, all senior, but some of them targeted for lower or higher levels of percentage of the median income. So at any rate, what this means with this generator is that in the event of an extended outage, we could run this, we could provide some senior services, we could use this space if we needed to as a shelter or a warming center, and the tenants upstairs would be able to use the elevator and would not be without heat and light and the like. So at any rate, it seems like it's a pretty straightforward thing for us to provide the easement across our property. As my battery died. Apparently. Oh, you gotta push the correct button. So we have a resolution tonight to accept give Eric the right to sign that, and then Brian and PHDFC are going to agree to this. PHDFC is contributing to the cost of this. So essentially, the lion's share of it paid for by CDBG grant, and then the balance split between the village and Ashburn. So
Sounds good.
uncontroversial.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Is that going underground or over?
The wiring goes underground, I think. The generator obviously sits above grade.
Right.
There was some back and forth. What you don't see here is this thing up here. It starts uphill. There's a hill here, and this goes up. This is the Riviera restaurant over here. So there's this sort of alley, but it's not a passable alley.
Right.
So, but it's been a problem at various points. It's right behind the kitchen there. So Jeff felt, and I think he's right, that clearing out some of the greenery in there and planting stuff that would provide some nice buffer, but also better access is the way to go. It became a bit of a tangle back there. So anyway, I think it's a good result all the way around.
Great.
So we have a little bit of time, huh?
We do.
Abby wanted to know when there was going to be an update on the pool. Do you want to ask the question you were asking me?
Please? Sorry.
Oh,
It's all
sorry.
right. I mean, we can. You're just interested
It
in.
was on the agenda last time, we never got to it.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering.
So here's where we are on the pool. As you know, we hired Steve Rimkunis, the engineer, and We've had a couple of Zoom meetings with Steve, and the pool task force had one with him last week. Everybody is kind of coalesced around one of the 6 or 8 designs that he provided, which I think are exciting. We're going to solve our infrastructure problems, but also have enough newness there that it will feel like a pool that has added some new features. So we've asked Steve to do some renderings of that design with the idea of rolling that out in a more public way, explaining to the public what we're talking about. Steve has some general cost estimates that are just his own that will have to get vetted against a serious cost estimate, but preliminarily it feels like it's within the realm of what we expected. I was going to say within the realm of our budget. I'll just say within the realm of what we expected. So I think the pool task force, particularly Troy Tassier, who's the chair of it, and Jim Kennedy, who's been very involved in this process, are both very gung-ho about it. There are 15 or so people on the task force. They met last week, and the report was everybody was gung-ho. So we're going to roll this out, let the public know what we're doing. That will be an opportunity, obviously, for people to say, hey, what about this? Could you do that? But assuming the community in general feels the same enthusiasm we have now, we're going to start developing that in detail, and we're going to create some display boards to put up perhaps in the breezeway there at the pool so that folks, when they come and go, can see what's planned and get excited about it. One really happy piece of news is that obviously nobody was quite sure what this season would look like as we were emerging from the COVID world and what enrollment would look like since we were closed last year, but enrollment has been really strong. So that's been great. We have a good running start of enthusiasm. So
enrollment has been stronger than pre-pandemic, right?
I think right now we have more memberships than we had in 2019.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a vote of confidence on lots of things. First off, obviously, there's some pent-up demand to get out and be in the real world.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think it's a manifestation of people wanting what we saw in the survey, which was we don't have the biggest or the fanciest pool, but we have a community pool that feels like it's a place where pleasant billions gather. So that feels like it's been ratified by what's happened this summer. And so I would guess, I don't know what Steve's schedule, do you know, Alyssa, how long it'll be? I'm winging it when I say in a month or so we should have these renderings, and then we'll make them public, have a presentation, and then get them out there. Not totally as a fait accompli, because obviously people may have opinions, but I think that the opinion leaders, this task force of 15 or so people, have all ratified it, and
they did a good job.
Yeah, they really did a
They
good
did a
job.
great job.
Yeah, a great job. So we got the right task force for sure.
No, it's so much better than where we started.
Right.
So.
Troy's been great. So, and then the next question obviously is going to be what happens next in terms of what the scheduling might be. Still hold out some sort of hope that it might be possible to end a season, go great guns into the business of building and not lose a whole summer thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody we've ever talked to has said that's theoretically possible, but it requires the alignment of a lot of things that may not align, including the weather. So, sort of what we expect right now is the pool will be open in its current form next year as well, because this all has to get drawn up in detail and vetted. The health department has to sign off on that kind of stuff. Hey, we're getting visitors. Hey, Ralph.
Hello.
How are you, Ralph?
We should probably do this once every quarter in the senior center. I don't know.
Hey, guys.
Welcome.
You just missed an exciting thrilling discussion of the generator that, the backup generator.
Helen filled us in.
Yeah.
I see them getting, you want to sit on the end? Wow.
Hey Ruth, how are you?
Who's here?
It's Peter.
That's what I say, everyone. Who am I talking to? It's
So-
amazing how everybody knows my name.
Well,
I wonder why.
come on, you're sort of famous.
Oh, Eric's on vacation.
Eric is out today, yes,
Oh, that's why I'm here.
yes. So we have about 10 minutes before our regular meeting. Do you guys have anything you want to ask us about?
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah?
We're trying to get some more information about opening this place, which is just barren, day in and day out.
Opening the senior center.
I mean, I saw on the agenda that you found a bus driver,
Yes,
so that was part of it.
right.
But the bus is, the bus is gonna do more than just shop. Take us shopping. When are we gonna come in and have lunch? When are we gonna come in and do the things we wanna do? Right now, when you come in, you can't even get a drink of water. I mean, everything is just,
Yeah. So are you guys all confident in coming back?
yeah, we have no problem with it.
Okay.
I wish I could have a way to get to Mount Pleasant. I'd be over there every day. They've got trips, they've been to casinos, they've been to boat rides, they go shopping, they go here,
So I honestly am not sure where Joni's thinking stands on that, and I will ask her tomorrow. We've had a couple of conversations about reopening, and she's starting to move in that direction and make progress.
I know, but it seems like it's taken forever.
Yeah. So I don't know the answer to that, but I'll call her tomorrow.
What's the vaccination rate in the building?
But also, we have to come here to pick up lunch. Richard's here cooking. Why do we have to pick up lunch when we can come in here and eat lunch? We're spending money on paper, on boxes.
Yeah, no, I understand.
It's cost effective to do this.
Yeah, I understand. I mean,
I used to be a taxpayer. I guess I am somewhere along the line.
I mean, the obviously everybody was not sure how to manage reopening, and honestly, I don't think anybody is 100% sure how to manage it now. But we're inching forward, and it sounds as though you guys unanimously want to see it all opened up. Is that?
Yeah.
No, I'm content with the way it is now.
Oh, sure.
So
Are you really, because of the COVID? Or just because you like?
Well, I like the 11:30 opening, it gives us time
To
to,
get lunch, that's another thing.
the Holy Innocents is a mess, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon. Previously, they didn't serve lunch here until beginning at noon. Right now, we can pick it up at 11:30,
But
which
you better-
is very satisfactory for me.
Well, so here's maybe in the category of trying to learn from our experience, maybe there's a way to incorporate that flexibility, including the flexibility for folks to pick up a meal if they aren't comfortable eating here. Is that?
Well, they used to be able to do both.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I'll talk to Joni tomorrow and
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That they're opening up, the pay, she said she's opening up, but there's all kinds of restrictions and
Right.
rules. You can't do this and you can't do that,
Yeah.
You have to sit where you're told and eat, you can't bring any food, you have to bring your own food and drink, and you can't share your drinks. I mean, it's like,
well, not sharing drinks seems like a reasonable rule, doesn't it?
no, but when these ladies play bridge, they have
Yeah.
they have a dish of candy or,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
It just,
Look,
it just
I mean,
seems like we're just getting, we're never getting any freedom. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
all right. So I'll talk to Joni tomorrow and find out what the story is, and maybe I or all of us can come back and have just a more informal meeting and talk about any kinds of subjects. But I mean, clearly, all these things got developed with the effort to try to keep people safe. So the question is now, can we throw care to the winds and turn it back to the way it always was? Is that fine? I think that might be a little too much too fast, right? I mean, I can tell you the COVID numbers have been great in Pleasantville and in the county as a whole, but last couple of weeks, 3 new positives. Is that anywhere near the number we were seeing before? No, but it makes clear that it's still out there. So,
Well, one of the things Joni had said to us earlier this spring was that not every visitor and regular user to the senior center was vaccinated. Is that still true?
Well, not everybody's gonna be vaccinated.
No, I understand, but there are senior centers in the area
I
that have 100% that were able to open.
How she did it, you know.
I think that was part of our concern earlier in the spring, was that unlike some other towns where they had actually achieved 100% vaccination in senior centers and were safer to open, that was not true. Obviously, this is going to be a high-risk population.
Can you do that legally, make people?
You can't make people, but you can sort of say, hey, if everybody gets vaccinated, we can open to a greater degree because the risk will be lower. Now,
Well, that seems like a far-fetched idea, waiting for everybody to get vaccinated, you know.
look, I mean, there are definitely some folks who are simply not going to
Eric,
get.
he said that he told her to go and check the surrounding communities.
Yeah.
Centers and see how they did it.
Yeah.
Well, they all managed to open. So actually, we're the only one that I know of. Anybody I talked to up the line here, Pleasantville opens from St. Patrick's Day. So April, May, June, you're talking 3-4 months.
All right, so I'll talk to Joni tomorrow.
I'll say it again. Until you live in the situation you live in, you don't know what it's like. You have to feel, you have no connection, you're isolated.
Right. No, I understand. I mean,
I think we all sympathize.
I mean, it's been one lousy 18 months, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and things are opening up all over the place, so I can understand your frustration that you're not having that experience.
This building is empty most of the days. I don't know where the number 60 people coming through the doors came from, but there are no 60 people in this building every day. On Thursday, there's one program at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's it.
Tuesdays, there's 2, one at 9 and one at 10.
Well, I don't know the number, but either way, from 10 o'clock on, there's nothing in this building. It's barren.
Mm-hmm.
Look, obviously that's nobody's goal, and it's not Joni's goal either. It's our goal to get back to regular life.
That's what,
But I don't think we're in a circumstance right now where it's no restrictions of any kind, but let me talk to Joni tomorrow.
There's no programs.
Yeah.
Like she says, there's one thing to do on.
And most of them are exercises.
Yeah.
And there's nothing. And they were out of here. You've got what, TED Talks and bingo. Those are I think the only 2 things that actually happen in this movie, except for the exercises.
All right, so,
and there's
I
only
mean,
4 of us in
yeah.
the class.
No doubt we need to get back to a full spectrum of programs, and that's the intent. The question is how and when. So I'll talk to Joni tomorrow, find out where it stands. I mean, as David already said, last time we discussed this, which was a ways back, with vaccine rollout not yet really happening, it felt like we still needed to be careful. So,
We
but
also have an hour to pick up our lunch between 11:30 and 12:30.
yeah,
Why?
Why? Yeah, I mean.
you want more time, in other words?
They're here.
Yeah.
It's not like they're leaving.
Mm-hmm.
The building's here, they're here. Why do we have to pick it up between 11:30 and 12:30? And get reprimanded if you're late.
I don't know. What does Richard say?
We could probably 1 o'clock.
I don't know.
All right. So I got a little to-do list here to find out where we stand on that front.
Okay?
Yeah.
What went on?
Shane, if folks want to speak, is there a way we could give them a mic without making everyone get up if people wanted to say something? I don't know whether that'll be the case, but I'm just.
You want me to hold it, Shane? I'll come on that side of that.
I'll just, I would have used wireless, I think. Throw this off and just try and go to wireless.
Okay, great. I don't know whether we'll need it, but if it's easy, sorry to throw you a curveball there.
Yeah. That's right. You haven't experienced it as much. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously I did it. I'm more used to this than the others.
So doesn't this mangle the car?
It does.
They're built to take.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
only thing that happened this weekend
More
was
intensive.
we caught the emergency brake cable at Severs.
Yeah.
That's like
Very, very different.
they're there. I mean,
Yeah.
there are. There's
Yeah.
150 Jeeps there.
Which is
One
really,
You should see when you
very
have
difficult trucks.
really
Usually
good
goes.
I just came back. We got back today from a trip to a couple of state parks in Delaware, somewhere in the Del Mar
And
Peninsula.
like that
by
energy is
this
all
place.
directed
So basically-
at you.
Obviously, built
1, 2, 1, 2.
these pickup trucks because they had taken one of those short wheelbase school buses, yellow school buses, and had these monster trucks.
It's like it just
Yeah.
continues and never happens.
Yeah.
First it was all Zoom, now it's like here. And
Yeah.
eventually, maybe one day I'll make it.
To the real me. I know.
When you hand it that way, because it's pretty fast around.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we have.
I think it has the potential for being a lot more
Great.
fun too in
Great.
person. So that's the other side of it.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
No, I just it's down with it.
All right,
So it's 8 o'clock?
it's 7:59.
Oh, is it? So Noreen's gonna use the mic to walk around.
Great. In case people want to speak, that'd be great. All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Village Board meeting for the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, July 12. We are meeting this meeting as well as our next one here at the Clinton Street Center. The change of venue occasioned by the fact that there is air conditioning work going on and Village Hall currently does not have any air conditioning. That has brought us to the Clinton Street Center, which is a nice occasion under any circumstances, and we have a bigger audience than we usually get. So welcome all, thank you for coming, much appreciated. We have a list of resolutions tonight as well as a public hearing on a very minor item. Most of the stuff is dry as dust. So let me invite any of you in the audience, if there's something you have a comment on or a question to ask, to have comments from the audience up front before we ask you to sit through the dry as dust part of it, which you're welcome to do. Did anyone have something they wanted to comment on? All right.
Say your name here.
Sylvia Ananomikos, 1 Clinton Street, apartment 211, Pleasantville, New York, 10570.
Very thorough, thank you, as always, Sylvia.
You know, during this COVID, we all understood the safety and all the precautions that had to be taken, but it seems like a lot of the activities were taken from the 80-year-olds and up. I mean, they played bridge, they couldn't come in, they had to go to somebody's house, and the lady had an emphysema attack because of the steps. Jack always played chess, that was taken away. the activities that were there, were like very few, limited to 10 people, but basically the ones that suffered are the real seniors of the building. And outside the building, we have 80 and 90-year-olds. I know Madeline Carini is 98, and she had to host bridge parties because they had nothing to do. They were bored. I mean, they couldn't go anyplace. They don't drive. So they depended on the center for something. And, there were times when I walked into the building and I see people sitting in the lobby, which is like a furnace, sweating to death because they had no place to go and talk. So now we're here because of the air conditioning, right? Why couldn't this be a cooling center or something? Because like I said, I have no problem with my apartment. I look at the park, it's wonderful. But it hurt to see 80 and 90-year-old people getting depressed, frustrated, whatever you want to call it, because they had absolutely no place to go. And I think, quote, senior really does include them. And I think, we should be more considerate of the really elderly population that we have. Thank you.
So we had a brief conversation about that with a few folks who got here before you did. Obviously, all the rules that were put in place were part of our senior program and our village efforts to try to figure out how to keep people safe in a crazy COVID world. I don't think anybody really knew what the answer was. I'm not sure anyone has all the answers now, but clearly we're way better off. So I don't think we had any alternative in the worst of it.
I'm talking, excuse me, but I'm talking about after the past when we all had our vaccines.
Okay, so the other problem we have is not everybody has the vaccine. And we're in a circumstance now, which is true not in every age group, where folks who are not vaccinated are themselves at risk and potentially putting others at risk as well. So we're trying to balance all that. But I mentioned to Ruth earlier, we had a chat as a group with Joni a couple of months ago and felt like we still needed to maintain some limitations over what happened here. Clearly, the numbers have gotten quite a bit better. I don't know what the vaccine status is for folks, but what does seem crystal clear in the science of it is that if you're vaccinated, you're way better off. And if you're likely, if you do get exposed to COVID, you're likely to have a much less severe case. The worst thing on earth would be for us to set up a program and end up with some people getting seriously ill. So it may be that we're at a point where we can, and I know Ruth reports Mount Pleasant is rocking and rolling with their regular program. So I think there's probably some folks in the community, both in the building and in the senior community at large, who are not ready to engage those kinds of activities yet or want to do them with some kind of restrictions. So we're trying to balance all that. But I'll talk to Joni tomorrow. Pardon?
Can't we show our vaccination cards?
Well, so I mean, I think not everybody agrees that that's the way to go.
Well, can I say something quickly? I'm Nicole Asquith, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a trustee. So I'm curious what you think about the vaccination question, because first of all, I want to say I completely sympathize with your frustration. I feel like I've been able to do a number of things that I wasn't for a long time, and it's a huge relief. And I understand, particularly for those older people who depend on these activities, how important that is. So in spirit, I'm entirely with you guys and want to make that happen. The concern is the feedback we've received is that there is certain percentage of people who use the Clinton Street services who are not vaccinated. And obviously with this new Delta variant, the concern is that there's a decent chance that they would get infected. So I was wondering if any of you have thoughts about how that risk might be mitigated, or how we could set up the programs in a way that would remain safe, since you're the ones who have more experience participating in them.
I would say, let the seniors that want to come, those of us that want to come for group activities, let us show our cards. And then there could be other days where it's open to the general public. But you have no idea. You call someone up and they're saying to you they want to die, they can't take this, it can't get worse.
Yeah.
That's a horrible thing to experience,
It is a horrible
especially,
thing, no doubt.
you know, with the 90-year-olds, because like I said, you know, those of us that are younger, we could adapt, we could make do, we could do what we have to do. But when you're housebound like that, you know, they played bingo, the chorus was a biggie, and the Zoom, they don't have the technology to do the Zoom. So maybe, you know, if we had more activities oriented for the elderly, they could show their cards. Because I know our building, everybody but 2 people are vaccinated.
I noticed today passing the Jacob Burns that they're having, on Monday, they're having showings that are only for vaccinated. So I think that's an interesting idea of having certain events where vaccination cards are required and maybe some where they're not. I mean, all of this will have to be discussed, obviously, but I think that's an interesting suggestion. Does anybody else have an idea?
Make the time of the showing not so late.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, you should
My
let.
day is over at that time.
I hear you.
I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm in White Plains at 9.
Yeah, well, maybe you should let them know. I mean, maybe the Clinton Street Center could coordinate with the Jacob Burns, since that's something that they're orchestrating. But
I you see a movie there, and then say it's 2 hours, you're getting out at 5 o'clock. Oh, first of all, 3/4 of us would fall asleep in the movie. There's no two
it's a
ways
good
to
place
go.
to fall asleep, though, right?
All right. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments they want to add?
Yes. We keep going.
Hold on,
with
I've
this.
got to give you that.
Oh, Helen said that. Take it.
Take
Oh,
it.
take it. Wait,
Yeah.
I can hold it? Ooh, how exciting.
Come on, Helen. Helen is on the
I know this is not
board.
something that most people want, but if we could go back to masks, then we're safe.
She suggested going back to masks. That is an option.
Here's
Who
mine.
wants to go back to meals?
Well,
Where'd
and
that come from, Helen?
well, maybe. Well, what would you think? I'm just throwing this out there. What would you think about having some events that are vaccinated only, and some events that are open to everyone, and masks are required at those events?
I wear the
I'm
mask
just-
all over the place. Well, I can't get on the bus unless I wear a mask.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. Everywhere I go, I wear a mask.
So as long as you're able to
I
do
don't
stuff
trust
you don't mind.
anything or anyone.
Why
Yeah.
did you get on it?
Well, I got it in my name.
Oh, okay.
I hear you.
All right, so we'll continue this conversation, and we'll do it this week to understand what we think is possible and how we can try to respond to these things. So, I mean, certainly, as Sylvia already said, as difficult as the last 18 months have been for everyone, they've been triply difficult for folks who can't get out and have fewer contacts and anything we can do to make that better, obviously that's what we're here to try to do. So, all right.
Everybody happy?
I mean, that's a promise to investigate is what it is.
Well, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
We have to improve things, I think.
I had a question. Hi, my name is Paul Alvarez. I'm a trustee as well. If there were events, just thinking about everything that was discussed, if there were events that did have availability for everyone who's been vaccinated, do you think that would encourage other members who have not been vaccinated? Or not? Should get vaccinated, correct.
What would encourage you?
encourage other members to get vaccinated.
What-
If we started having events,
Oh, events.
correct.
Yeah, well, first of all, if you have an event, they have to get here. Right now, we don't have a bus that'll get us here, so that's
Well,
fine.
Oh, we're working on
We're
that.
making good progress here, Ruth.
Yeah, I know, I know it's on the agenda.
Right.
But like I said, it's been a long 15 months.
Of course, absolutely,
I know.
absolutely.
So the next meeting for, this is David Vingemori, we met before. The next meeting for the board is also here in this room, so you can get a follow-up.
Can we come back?
You can come back, yeah, absolutely.
Please do.
And I actually wanted to ask you whether you think it would be helpful. We're here because of a cooling issue in Village Hall, but I don't see any reason that once or twice a year at the very least we couldn't have our meetings here to make it easier for all of you
Yeah,
to
that's a good idea.
check in with us if you're interested.
That is a good idea.
I was surprised when I got the email.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Most of the stuff that if you don't get it on email, you don't know what's happening.
Right.
And a good percentage of the people upstairs do not get emails. You know, we've been out into that. You know,
Right.
You don't either get word of mouth or once in a while you get a piece of paper or a notice, but other than that, we got a movie Thursday. Don't ask us what the name of it is, but they're going to play a movie. So,
Well, that's good.
anyway, that's I like to know.
All right. Thank you for all that feedback. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on introductory local law 5 of 2021 to amend Chapter 14, Section 5 and create Chapter 14, Section 9 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning the composition of the Board of Ethics of the Village of Pleasantville?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Welcome to the public hearing. We have...
They all came for this.
Yeah, exactly. Right? We have, and have had for many years, a 3-person appointed ethics board that I am happy to report doesn't generally have much to do, but whenever there's a question, it is sent to them, and they offer an opinion on, for example, whether someone has a conflict of interest or something of that kind. It happens rarely, but it does happen every now and again. 2 of the members are former mayors, John Nona and Bernie Gordon, and the third is Eric Christensen, also an attorney. So in the course of their wanderings through our code, it turns out that our current code requires that one member of this ethics board be an elected or appointed official, and we do not currently have an elected or an appointed official on the board. And in conversation, we felt like we didn't want an elected or an appointed official on the board. It ought to be an outside group because it's elected or appointed officials who would be the ones to be reviewed. So this introductory local law essentially changes that aspect of it that says we will have an appointed board and they do not that none of them will be an appointed or elected official. Any comment of any kind? Is there a oh?
Is it mandated that 1 or 2 be a trustee or?
I believe the way it reads now is that at least one member has to be an elected or appointed official. But we have the right as a municipality to change that, and that's what we're proposing to do. And honestly, full disclosure, we haven't had an elected or appointed official on this board for a long time, not realizing this arcane piece of the code was buried in there. So we're fixing it. So, any other comment? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. If you wait through these, you'll get the exciting moment of when we approve that change that we just talked about. Resolution number 182. Paul.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville desires to install an emergency standby backup generator on property located at 125 Willer Avenue, owned by the Village of Pleasantville, referred to as village property, which will service a building located at 104 Tompkins Avenue, owned by the Pleasantville Housing Development Funding Company, and partially occupied by the village's Clinton Street Senior Center. And whereas certain utility lines for the generator are proposed to be located on the PHDFC property, and whereas cross easements between the village property and the PHDFC property may be necessary, and whereas Consolidated Edison of New York will provide the gas and electric service necessary for the generator and has requested a letter evidencing the consent of the village and PHDFC to locate the generator and related utility lines on their respective properties, an agreement to cooperate in granting any and all necessary easements, permissions, authorizations, and other similar instruments for the installation of the emergency standby backup generator, electric and gas lines as appropriate, including easements as may be necessary between the village property and PHDFC property. Now, therefore be resolved that the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor or the village administrator to execute the letter requested by Consolidated Edison, evidencing the consent of the village and PHDFC to locate the generator and related utility lines on their respective properties, an agreement to cooperate in granting any and all necessary easements, permissions, authorizations, and other similar instruments for the installation of the emergency standby backup generator, electric and gas lines, as appropriate, including easements as may be necessary between the village property and PHDFC property.
Is there a second?
Second.
Short version of a long story is we're putting a generator out in the garden. It will mean some changes in the garden, but they're clearly a net win, I think, because what it means is that this first floor center and all of the apartments upstairs will continue to operate even if we lose power. So it's something we've talked about for a long period of time. Finally had an opportunity to do it. The village and PHDFC are both contributing to this. The bulk of the money from a community development block grant, which is federal money managed by the county. So it's a good story, and the result of that is you will, on some sort of a weekly basis, hear the thing fire itself up to do its self-test, but it will quickly shut down again. But in the event of a long-term outage, and we've certainly had some in the area, though not here, this building would continue to operate, and the elevator would work, and the lights would be on, and we could use this center as a warming center or whatever it might be. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Nicole, 183.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village treasurer to create a capital account, and be it further resolved that the refuge fund balance in the amount of $270,000 be transferred for a new sanitation truck.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's an article missing on that resolution, just transferred for new sanitation truck.
You wouldn't think a garbage truck costs $270,000, but it does. The good news is that we have a fund balance to pay for it, that money in the bank. So we're anticipating as Jeff has been working on all of the vehicles, a phased replacement. We've got some pretty old trucks, and hopefully a new one is quieter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. David, 184.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on June 28th, 2021, attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
The minutes of that meeting, the June 28th meeting, included a discussion of this work going on the Sawmill Parkway, which has been frustrating to almost everybody. Drivers who are trapped in traffic jams at peak times, and all of us by the noise associated with the work. It's going to go on for another year, although it will morph in various ways as they move along. But what they're doing right now is essentially working in what will become the southbound side, and then next year switch over and do the same work on the northbound side. So there will be a little reprieve, and certainly there's been a reprieve lately because most of the pile drivings have been done. But I am sad to report the pile drivings in the northbound side are going to happen next year, and we'll be having a reprise of the same trouble. Any other comments, questions, corrections to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Back to you, Paul, 185.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for the fiscal year of 2021, effective May 31st, 2021, as listed below. The budget transfers from the general fund, it's $2,933. That is going to the Village Hall repairs account, going from the contingent account. And decreased revenue and expense from the general fund, there's $91,757.19. The account that it's coming from is a revenue count from the DFC Pleasantville Strong Drug Free Community Revenue, and it will be going to $7,780 will be going to the Drug Free Community Conferences. $7,771.64 will be going to the Drug Free Community Supplies. $6,643.80 will be going to miscellaneous. $69,561.75 will be going to OS expense. And there is no amount given to the community part-time expense, the Social Security, and the Medicare.
Is there a second?
Second.
So just to be clear, the first item, $2,933, is our expense from contingent funds to Village Hall repairs having to do with the various projects we have going there. This $91,757 for Pleasantville Strong is federal money. It's not taxpayer money, but the village is the fiscal agent, and so we receive the grants and manage the accounting for it, but it's federal money, not taxpayer money. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 202.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year ending in 2022 as listed below. Increase revenue and expense general fund, the amount of $91,757.19. Pleasantville Strong Drug Free Community Revenue. So it's basically the same breakdown that we had in the previous fiscal year being moved forward. Appropriate fund balance refuse fund, the amount of $270,000 transfer to capital for a new refuse vehicle. Increase revenue and expenses capital fund, $270,000 interfund transfer from refuse fund for the new refuse vehicle.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the first resolution was to account for a decrease in revenue and expenses, and the second, the corresponding increase. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 187, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated July 12, 2021 for fiscal year ending 2021, covering check numbers 100878 to 100895. From the general fund, $15,937.05. From the water fund, $122,922.86. From the capital fund, $5,581.64. From the refuse fund, $68.35, for a total of $144,509.90. The payments of claims are attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
So these are expenses that relate to the fiscal year that ended May 31 of 2021. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 188, Paul.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment of claims dated July 12, 2021 for the fiscal year of 2022, covering check numbers 100731 through 100877. For the general fund, $356,781.88. Water fund, $38,263.42. Capital fund, $859.88. Refuse fund, $75,359. Trust fund, $2,500, for a total of $473,705.77.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we've got a couple of big numbers here. Chief among them, $182,000 to PERMA, which is our workers' comp carrier. Comments, questions?
What's the trust fund?
Were you seeing that?
Oh wait, did I imagine that?
No, it's the second to last category.
There's a refund of a film permit bond.
Oh yeah, that's here. This one.
That was the refund of the film permit
Oh,
for the
okay.
guys that did the thing on Wheeler Avenue and in the Old Village.
I see.
We have our treasurer here to answer these questions. Thank you, Nori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 189.
Okay, that's me, right? Whereas the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees desires to amend Chapter 14, Section 5 and create Chapter 14, Section 9 of the Village Code to eliminate the requirement that a village elected or appointed official or employee be a member of the Board of Ethics of the Village of Pleasantville in order to establish the Board of Ethics as a truly independent body. And whereas the proposed action is a Type 2 action pursuant to the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SECRA, and no further environmental review is required. And whereas the Board of Trustees held and closed a public hearing on Monday, July 12th, 2021, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby adopts Local Law 6 of 2021. And the local law is attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is the matter we discussed earlier, resolving that quirk of the code and establishing the Board of Ethics as truly independent. Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 190, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Amy Gladstone, 35 Clark Street, to hold a block party and thereby close Clark Street on Saturday, July 17th, 2021, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions?
Are we invited?
Probably
I don't
not.
know. You need to have a friend on Clark Street. It's starting to be a season of block parties, which is a really nice Pleasantville tradition. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. And here's another one. 191. Back to you,
Is it
Paul.
me? Oh, Paul, yeah.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from Sarah Gorowski, 90 Sunnyside Avenue, to hold a block party and thereby close Sunnyside Avenue on Saturday, July 31st, 2021 from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a rain date of August 1st, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, there are a lot of parties. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
All right.
192. Here you go.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the hiring of Gina Sadow as a part-time bus driver, job code 0204 at the hourly rate of $19 effective July 19th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Good news. Hiring a part-time bus driver. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. We've got some ayes from the audience.
I'm in favor.
All right. 193, David.
Whereas in July 2020, the village filed a proof of claim to reserve its rights in the bankruptcy proceeding captioned In Re Purdue Pharma LP et al. Case number 19-23649 RDD, pending in the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Southern District of New York. And whereas the Bankruptcy Court thereafter established the Official Committee of Unsecured Creditors as a fiduciary committee with representatives for the various claimants to investigate and assess a range of opioid-related claims against the debtors. And whereas in June 2021, the Bankruptcy Court approved a disclosure statement for distribution to potential claimants for settling opioid-related claims against the debtors pursuant to the terms of a Fifth Amended Joint Chapter 11 Plan of Reorganization of Purdue Pharma LP and its affiliated debtors. And whereas the plan will require that $4.5 billion be allocated and set aside in trust for opioid-related claims and otherwise used for abatement of past, present, and future opioid-related problems, with $4.275 billion of such proceeds being contributed by members of the Sackler family over the period of 10 years. Now, therefore, be resolved, the Village Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the village attorney to vote on behalf of the village to approve the plan and file such other documents with the court as may be necessary to effectuate said affirmative vote.
Is there a second?
Second.
So long and complicated story, some of which you may have read about in the press. Purdue Pharma declared bankruptcy under the weight of many claims against them for what was believed by many to be the irresponsible distribution of opioids. We, through our village attorneys at Keenan Bean, filed the statement that gave us standing in that. It is at this point not clear what we might get from it, but if there's something to get when this all resolves, we will have stood in line to make sure the Village of Pleasantville was represented. So the advice of our attorney to do it.
So I'm actually going to vote against this, and I would urge other board members to vote against this as well. The $4.275 billion that the Sacklers are going to disgorge from this leaves them with nearly $6 billion in wealth that they accumulated during the decade of abuse of opioids that was foisted upon the middle of America by this firm. And I think this is a completely insufficient settlement. I'm very disappointed that New York has agreed to it. 15 states are pulling out of it, including Connecticut. The Attorney General has announced that they're going to be voting against this. I think it's completely insufficient. I think there's good examples. For instance, when California pulled out of the settlement with for the mortgage settlement, that they in fact were able to go back and get significantly more from the creditors, including Citigroup, as a result. So I don't think that we should be in this. I realize this is a symbolic act, that the action of a single village is not going to change the state, but I think if enough villages, indicate their displeasure with letting very, very wealthy people not take the full toll of something that's decimated, a great part of this country with the opioid crisis, that that they'll hear the message eventually.
So the question I would ask is, I understand that argument and I generally agree with it, but as a purely practical matter, it does not benefit the Village of Pleasantville to lose its standing in this process. And a decision to vote against it would mean we would lose our standing in the process unless the process did not go forward and was revised in the manner you propose, which does not appear likely in New York State. What do you think about that?
My opinion is that, first of all, it's not at all clear what our stake in this is. It's probably quite small, if anything at all.
I imagine that is true.
And I do think, however, that if you see 10 or 20 or 30 villages, towns, and cities doing the same thing that we're doing, that there would be an effect, that you may actually see a political shift in New York. I think that the decision by Connecticut to pull out too will have some effect in the region.
So I know a little bit about this suit on a larger level, but I don't know that much about it on a state-specific level. So each state has filed a specific, has come to a specific resolution with Purdue. Is that right?
No, there's one settlement.
There's one settlement, and each state gets the certain amount.
They'll get a part of it.
Okay.
With the.
And your opinion is that if enough states pull out, it will implode, or
approval of the plan requires at least 2/3 of the voting class to cast a ballot, and at least 50% of such ballots to be cast in favor. So.
Okay. So it's a majority vote, essentially.
Right. The deadline to submit a vote is the day after tomorrow.
Okay.
Welcome, Michael Peppard, our fifth
Michael,
trustee.
Can I put you on the spot?
He was arriving back from a trip. You
I'm
got
curious
here pretty
what you
fast.
Worked out, yeah, straight from the West Coast. So
all right.
Congratulations.
Glad to be back.
What do you think about this?
I confess that I didn't quite understand the like you say, our stake in it, as a village.
Yeah.
So that wasn't clear to me from the legal materials provided. Do we have any way of knowing?
So, I mean, what would happen is the costs I'll read this. Costs incurred by the village relating to opioid addiction may include the cost of acquiring and storing the drug Narcan, the cost of training officers on the use of Narcan, the cost of responding to emergency calls involving opioid overdoses. At the preliminary list, this is our attorney speaking, we'd work with the police department on developing a robust and inclusive claim should the plan be approved. So do I envision that is a very big number? I don't, but we certainly trained our officers with Narcan, purchased Narcan, and have administered it on an emergency basis on more than one occasion. So there's something there. So, I mean, David's point is well taken, which is the argument about whether the Sacklers are evading responsibility and escaping with great wealth. The practical question is whether it's worth potentially jeopardizing whatever claim we might have as a matter of to manifest that philosophy. I will say, and I don't pretend to know an enormous amount about it, but certainly was part of the decision to file the claim to begin with. I intend to vote yes, with great respect for what David has said, as a purely practical matter, which is that it does not appear to me likely that the thing will be changed. If indeed there is any chance that the deal would be recast, I think our vote will not matter one way or the other. And so my calculus is that better to preserve our right to have some piece of whatever the pie turns out to be.
So now do we have a legal opinion saying that if we vote against a settlement, we don't participate in the settlement? Because it doesn't say that here.
Yeah. I believe, I may be wrong about that. I don't know.
Because I thought that was at a state level. But so my thought.
In other words, voting against the settlement might not.
If enough people vote against
yeah.
it, then the state would be out. But I'm not sure that it denies us our rights.
I'm not sure of that either. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah.
I did think that was the case, but I'm not certain of that. Painfully, our decision has to be made now because the deadline is the day after tomorrow, and we will not meet again in a setting where we could take this action in time to change that. So, any other thoughts?
I'm puzzled a bit. I apologize. I also was not aware of, generally for me, when settlements do come about, having a legal background, it takes a lot, especially settlements this big, to reach them. And I do agree with Peter as that it doesn't seem like it would change, especially with the majority. So I'm inclined to vote yes, but I am a bit concerned that I don't know, what, and I'm very respectful, and I totally agree with David and points he brought up as well, but I do think that the settlement in itself, I don't know if it'll change if we were to oppose it, and I wouldn't want to miss out on something that could benefit anyone that's been hurt by this in Pleasantville. So I'm a bit conflicted, but I am leaning towards a yes vote.
I'm inclined to agree with David. Although, why are you laughing, Shane?
I'm smiling. We're gonna have a 3-2 vote, maybe.
So just, one of the examples is California pulled out of the settlement with Bank of America and I think Citigroup. And at the time, there was a lot of criticism, but they ended up actually getting $25 billion. They got like a multiple of what the original settlement was. So I think that I don't think it's at all given that the states that pull out are going to be worse off than the ones who stay in the settlement. There's been a lot of criticism of the settlement nationally.
Well, I think the way that the Sackler family has gone about it by declaring bankruptcy on the part of their company so that they were not financially liable or really hurt by this. I find that deeply offensive.
And with respect to what Peter said, I totally get that there's probably a few $1,000s in Narcan that we paid for during this crisis and some training that can be reimbursed and everything, but I just can't take it's not worth it to me to let these people off for what they did to, hundreds of thousands of Americans who died unnecessarily during this crisis.
So I totally respect that, but we have a 24-page plan support letter here that makes clear that this is the result of several years of litigation. So without obviously having any certainty of it, it does not appear to me likely that the deal is going to be changed. There are literally millions, many hundreds of millions of pages of documents listed here. So
yeah, I mean that was true though in the national mortgage settlement too.
I get it. All right, let's have a.
Well,
do you want to add to that?
I just want to ask David another question. So
yes,
David,
we can go back to California.
Yeah, I can go back on vacation now.
Yeah.
So David, what would be the desired outcome of your no vote?
My desired outcome is that enough. I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, if enough municipalities in New York actually fail to approve this, then New York won't have the quorum it needs to participate in the settlement, and that would get us out as well to be part of the group of states that are going to renegotiate this or relitigate it.
I'm not convinced that it's state by state. As I read it, and again, we're depending on our lawyers here, who incidentally have recommended that we approve it. The issue is 2/3 of the class has to vote, and 50% of the votes have to support the plan, right?
So what's the definition of class?
And is of the voting class, does that mean all of the municipalities?
I think that means all of the potential claimants for the sum of money, and I think it's not just municipalities.
Yeah. So if we do not hypothesize that more than 50% of them are going to vote against it, then it's a symbolic vote.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
That is the
Correct.
case. And the question to which we don't have the answer and aren't going to get the answer tonight, and when we have to act, is whether voting against it would mean we lose our place in line, so to speak.
Right.
David suggests maybe it doesn't, and he may very well be right.
Yeah, the Sackler family made roughly $11 billion during the opioid epidemic in terms of the money they took out of Purdue Pharma, and they're proposing over the next decade, including the forward profits of the company, to put $4.2 billion in, which is, if you got arrested with 1/millionth of the amount of opioids that were pushed through pharmacists in the Midwest, you'd be in jail for 20 years, and instead these people are taking basically half of their gains from all of this.
Yeah, look, I totally respect that view, and I share it. Where I am is we're confronted with this document where the official committee of unsecured creditors that was appointed in this bankruptcy case, which consists of 9 members, which is a personal injury victim who suffered from opioid use, a third-party payer and trade association for 35 independent health insurance companies, collectively insuring 110 million members, a trade creditor and co-defendant in opioid litigation that has asserted indemnification, the mother of a child who died of an opioid overdose, the mother of a child diagnosed upon birth with neonatal abstinence syndrome due to fetal opioid exposure, a trade creditor, federal entity responsible for insuring defined benefit plans, the grandfather of a child diagnosed upon birth with NAS, and a hospital. Those are the 9 members. This has gone on for years. There are literally hundreds of millions of documents represented. And the last line in this 24-page memo says, accordingly, the UCC, that's the committee I just described, urges every unsecured creditor to vote in favor of the plan. So where I stand, I agree with you about these problems at our level of influence, as well as our level of sophistication and understanding how these several years have worked with this committee. I am ready to vote yes. Are we all ready to vote?
Sure.
All right, let's go down the row. So Paul?
I vote yes.
I vote no.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes 3-2. And I say that with great respect for the issues you present.
Likewise.
Yeah. All right. That was the last of our resolutions. That got more exciting than I thought, right? Huh? All right. Any further comment from the public on any subject?
I'd like to say something.
Hold on, get the mic here so we can hear you. We need your name and address.
I'm Ann Fratellillo at apartment 307, 1 Clinton Street in Pleasantville. I have a parking space across the street,
Yes?
and on the weekends, I don't have one.
Because someone else parks in it?
Yeah, but not now. I mean, since the COVID, I've been getting. But on Saturday and Sunday, when everybody is around and Lucy opens up, it seems I'm afraid to leave the parking. I don't want to use my
It is
car on
reservable.
Saturday and
Sure.
Sunday.
Yeah, she pays.
Why is that? Why can't I have the spot for the whole week?
Well, don't you have it all the time in theory? Someone is
Yes,
parking in
but-
it in violation?
No, they're allowed to park on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, you mean the spaces on this side?
Right.
I see.
Yeah, the $600 a year, right.
Oh.
Why is that?
You're referring to the spaces that are assigned for the activities here, right?
No.
No, she's talking.
You're talking about the ones against the track?
The track, yeah.
no
matter
Commuter spot?
She has a community spot.
says senior housing permits only.
And I thought that was 7 days a week. It's not?
Nope.
It's when anybody decides that they don't have a better spot.
But I mean, the rules, I think, are 7 days a week.
But you don't have a parking person out there 7 days a week.
All right, so that's another matter to discuss. It is my belief that those spaces, the ones over on the track, that are assigned to an individual who pays for them, are 7 days a week, 24/7. And when, right.
No.
No, if you read the sign that's on Wheeler, it says the same things he does at the railroad.
Okay, so then maybe I have misunderstood what the deal is. I will find out.
Okay.
I always thought that was the deal, but nothing like the people who live it to understand what the issue is. So I'll find out. We'll get back to you, Ann.
Great point, Race.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions, comments? All right, we have a brief executive session item. Is there a motion to close the regular meeting and go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we have to
Motion approved.
kitchen or something?
Yeah, right.